Greetings and salutations, exiles. So in this video, we're going to just basically be like a vlog or a topic update or a discussion and thoughts video. I think is a better way to kind of term this phrase. So I've been going through and looking through the admin panel, trying to figure out what basically what's going to bring me back to Conan. Because I got so pissed with it, I basically uninstalled it off the machine and then then the internet crashed, and I didn't have internet for nearly a month, and so I decided, they announced Test Live and they announced the new dungeon, and the new dungeon alone isn't reason enough for me to come back because that doesn't fix any of the topics that I've been like highly frustrated out for 6 months or 8 months, maybe even a year at this point, that are like. Especially when you play on a PvP server, and I don't want to say hazed. You don't get hazed, but there are mechanics that allow players to exploit systems that kind of greatly diminish the playability of the game. And so it's one of those things where, like, if you put if you put 500 hours or 200 hours or 50 hours into doing something, and then somebody comes along within 20 minutes and wipes out all your work, it's not worth. You realize it's diminishing returns. It's just not worth doing. And I was thinking, there are parts of me really do enjoy the game, and it has by far been the most, probably one of my most played games of all times. But it's those diminishing returns. Some of it's people DDoS in the server. You can't play on weekends. You just want to chill out. You already got your gym time in, and you're like, I just want to veg out. Excuse me, I want to veg out, and then you just go. You go home and you can't get on the internet, or you can't get on the servers because somebody got raided. They're angry about it, and so they're DDoSing the server for a set period of time. And so there's a lot of underlying exploits that exist. But back to my original topic, I was going through the admin panel here, and I was looking through stuff to kind of try to figure out core mechanics, core gameplay mechanics, core mechanics, and just to just to kind of get an idea what's changed. It kind of reminded me of a few talking points that I had done in the past, like the steel reinforcements. They need to make a obsidian reinforcement, and the one thing is the building system needs a complete overhaul. I know it's part of their big key model for their DLC, and it'll never happen. But they need to turn it recipe based. And so if you add shaved wood to the recipe instead of insulated wood, it's got cold protection. If you add an obsidian ingot to it instead of reinforced ingot, it gives it a different set of property. And so it gives you a little. It gives you, like, you'll still select the model that you want, and it'll still have the image, but based off how you change the composition of your materials, obsidian or steel, it spits out a different set of attributes and hit points. So if I used iron, let's say I used a reinforced brick, but I used iron reinforcements instead of steel reinforcements, I would have a certain durability to go with it. But if I used obsidian reinforcements, and it was just a way to kind of tailor a certain set of properties for a certain situation, and it would drive that survivability mechanic, which is at its core is the most fundamental piece of this game, is that survivability mechanic. Um, and I was thinking about core systems that play off those survivability mechanics ultimately greatly improve the gameplay significantly. Like, right now I'm kind of on this campaign to get a torch rework. Badly need a torch rework, and we also badly need a deity shrine rework. The way that the one is the rewards, or the stuff that you get from the deity shrines, are very lackluster, and the whole everything you get is like 6 to 8 items, and they really need to be four to six items per tier, and then the tiers need to be designated as so like tier one are your survival items. Like maybe off Mitra you'll get a little flask and a torch. That'll be your bonus items. Tier 2 will be your crafting and player versus environment items, and then your Tier 3 will be your PvP items, like your swords, your weapons. Maybe you'll get maybe you'll get like some extra base defense items. Like back to tier 2, you'll get that's where all your shrines and fountains. So that way you can do all your most of your building crafting and not get into the location of tier 3, not get into the exposure aspect of tier 3, and compromise yourself. You can still do 66% of all the crafting and the world exploration, and or I said 100% of the crafting in the world exploration before you bump up into that tier, and then you're locked into that PvP. Everybody knows where you're at, and kind of engineer those a little bit better. I know that's a little bit of a ramble, but there's kind of the idea about the DAC system, how it needs to be worked, but it also it rejuvenates some of these core systems, and it protects some of the player base, because ultimately what's happening is a lot of these underlying exploits take place, and then players get pissed. They don't stick around long enough. They get pissed and they leave the game. And then you can't build a sense of community, because very few players play or stick around to play. And if you look at the player populations, it's like 2,500, 3,000, to when you compare it to Arc, which is sitting around 35,000. 10 times the amount almost. And if you look at Rust, Rust is sitting around 65 to 85,000. It's significant. So it's one of those things where, and I know they don't want to put the money into it because they have other projects, but if they use the same engine and they develop the core systems in this game, they can direct plug and play them into the new project. It's not like it's a waste of money, or it's an abandoning system, and it's a way to kind of save the player base, because I can guarantee that there isn't as a loyal as a cult following as Conan and some of these other titles that they're producing. So they just really need to not forsaken, you like that, not forsaken a oh, look at the moonrise right there, very nicely done. The Conan, and they need to dump some money into it, and I'm okay with them charging. If they want to monetize some more of this stuff, it's totally fine with me. Monetize as much as you want. And some people might get mad about it, but when I got my $60 worth. I'm totally happy with that, and I paid for all the DLCs, and I've actually probably bought 10 copies for other friends, and it's about that what keeps people around. The crafting is a big proponent, right? So your survivability element is one of your pillars. Your crafting and building, your building system is fantastic. It's just missing a few pieces, because that pillar doesn't properly integrate into the third pillar, which is your combat and PvP mechanics. And so those two don't synergize the way that they're supposed to. There's some discrepancy there. Like the combat and the survival element synergize as well, because if you're in certain environments, you pay that heavy price for not having the correct gear, like not having cold gear, and then you start getting frostbite, and even though you're fighting, you have that extra penalty of being like in a cave where you didn't plan for it, and it's even more challenging, and it's uh, the gameplay experience is much more enriched, and so it's that synergy is fantastic. The PvP and the world combat to the base, that synergy isn't correctly aligned. The synergy between base building and survival is good, because the buildings keep you alive, they protect you, they allow you to store your stuff. There's a few things that needed badly, that need to be revisited badly, like the storage system badly needs to be revisited. And so, and I really, this video is 4 topics, and I've covered torches, which kind of to updates the survival system. It's a huge core gameplay mechanics. I talked about the building systems. They need to be, there's some elements there that need to be redone. I talked about in some of my other content, adding steel and iron palisades. You got your wood ones, and then you kind of evolve that system, flush that system out a little bit more. We talked about the deity shrines need to be re-updated they to add relevance in a PvE environment, because right now, back to this shrine thing, the issue that you have is, let's say you go tier 3 shrine and you get your god. Well, the god doesn't do anything. The god system and the tokens are broken big time. There's huge issues across the board with that. So if they re-engineer those shrine systems where they have more relevance in the tier 1 and the tier 2 building of that shrine, how you upgrade it, those first two tiers need to kind of have a role that they play, to where tier 1 is survival based items. They help you survive and progress through the game, because ultimately you get those at low level. Tier 2 is more of your building implementations, your the stuff that helps you build a better base. uh, and your tier 3 is, and this is kind of a reiteration, your tier 3 is your world PvP survival. But that's not a clear path. They don't have that. They don't have that. The shrines clearly defined as kind of a purpose. They just kind of barfed a item set into the shrines as you progress, and they're so thin and fecal is what you actually get. Um, the real reasons that people pick shrine is just they're a little bonus, like, oh, I get my heals, or oh, I get my meat from Yogg, and there's no real depth to it. but but yeah. So as originally what I was talking about, I go through here and I'm looking for stuff in the admin panel. What in here is like a kind of a revolutionary. What's like when they added the thralls to the merchant. That's fundamentally huge. That's the kind of stuff I'm looking for. But I think they nerfed that down a little bit too much, or the price. It's good that they have the random number, but I think the price got a little high, because at that point I realized there was no point in going back and buying anymore, and they kind of obsoleted it by, originally in the test server it was 50, but when it became 100, then it's just too much. It was too much, and I was like, well, I'll just wait the 12 hours or the 24 hours at that point. But when it was 50, or put set prices instead of randomizing it. Just put set prices, and a tier 4 thrall would be 1,000 gold, and just have a set price. And a tier 3 thrall would be 750 gold. A tier 2 thrall would be 250. A tier 1 would be 50, and just have a set price. And then that way, if they really want that tier 4 thrall, they would and take away the randomness out of it. But yeah, this is kind of a discussion and thoughts video of where I'm at in my nearly 1,500 hours of playtime. And some of you will enjoy this video, and some of you won't enjoy this video. But it's okay. None of this is monetized. I'm not in it to make money. I kind of got some negativity a while back about not editing up my videos, and they didn't like the fact that I kind of rambled through some topics. But I believe there's some wisdom here. And if you agree or disagree with some of my thought process, let me know. All right, thanks for watching.